The other theme that's coming through is a very different one, and it's around the notions of feedback and play in a digital environment, and I'll say a little bit more about that in a moment. So I'm just going to give you a very quick cook's tour through some of the things that we're finding. And I want to share with you some material from one of the schools in Wolverhampton, where the children are actually taking part in a religious studies lesson, but it's also a literacy lesson. And the objectives of this task are to develop an understanding of narrative, how you tell a story, and the children have been given a free choice of how to retell this story. These children are all about 9 or 10 years of age, and I'm going to show you a short video clip in which we see the work of 5 different pupils in this same group. And you will notice from the work that you see that they're operating at very different levels on this task. It also shows you a technique that we're using a lot and finding very rich in terms of finding out what's really going on, whereby we actually video the screen that the children are working on while they talk about what they're doing. And we found this a very good way of really beginning to understand what's going on with the children's work. So I'm just going to show you this. And I just want to tell you to start off with, the first child we're going to see him for the longest, is, we call him Sam. And Sam finds learning challenging. He's not a great communicator. He finds the whole idea of telling a story very, very difficult. So the work that you're going to see from him is actually quite a remarkable piece of work for him, not least because the clip actually shows a sequence that took over 20 minutes. And for Sam to concentrate on anything for that long was quite an achievement for him. And then you'll see much shorter clips. By the way, Sam's clip is not 20 minutes, I hasten to add. You'll see much shorter clips of other children who were working alongside him in the same room at the same time, but doing rather different things. And particularly, look out for the pink and blue squirrelies.
5, and it's about Steve, I think, and it's when he gets put to death by being stoned. But first he's got to go and see the council.
It's not recognising the battery, just ignore it because you know it's charged.
What is it called?
It's St. Stephen.
This is actually, it's not very good, but it's actually meant to be the council. And next, I'm not very good at crowns either.
Oh, the background.
And then we're going to get another one, next page. And now that's number 2. Now we need to fit in Stephen.
So you might have him.
And we're having Brown.
You could have him next to Peter.
He's got to be near. Oh. He's got to be kneeling down and I'm looking at him.
Yeah, he used to.
That's it.
No.
That's it.
We need to play the sequence now.
And now we've got to play.
What do you think?
It's quite good, I think.
Him just waiting for some people and preaching in case there's people around him. And then a person comes, and on my 3rd slide, I'm going to have this person further in, so it looks like this person's walking, and then more of a crowd is coming.
And then what's going to happen?
And then when he's told everybody, I'm going to go to the court and there's going to be someone that's being bribed, and then on the next slide, then it'll be when someone's told the people in the court, and then when he goes for a trial, and then when he's got and then when the stone's being thrown at him.
People about Jesus, and he's standing on a rock, and he's telling the people that they should believe in Jesus. I don't know, I just couldn't. I didn't find that I could write so much on this sketch. So, and I thought I'd rather write than draw pictures.
There's some interesting choices being made. The pink squirrelies, by the way, was her sole output for the entire lesson. So the idea that everyone was on task, not entirely 100%, there are no guarantees. But Sam, for example, to have concentrated for that long was quite remarkable. But you'll also have noticed the wide range of choices being made by the children as to how they choose to enact this task. So we are beginning to see a degree of choice here. And the idea that they would all want to use image-based software, obviously not true. This particular young lady much prefers to work with text. She likes to write text. She doesn't want to use images, but she has chosen to use a digital device to produce that text rather than anything else. So what we're seeing here is differentiation of task by outcome. The task for all of them, as set, was the same, but they're choosing to work in their own way, at their own level. Now that's absolutely fine, so long as those youngsters have sufficient knowledge and understanding of both how to operate the technology and how to enact the task, and sufficient motivation to stretch themselves. But we've still got the problem of Miss Squirrely, who chose to use a device and chose to spend it doing something completely off task. We have got sustained engagement. Now remember, these children have had these devices for a considerable length of time by this stage. At this point in the proceedings, they'd had them for over 2 years. They were still engaged far more and for far longer, according to their teachers, when they were writing using the device than when they were not. They were choosing to use multimodal approaches to their work, and they were engaged in a productive task. So it seems when it works well, it works well. But it would be wrong to leave you with the impression that that lesson was a typical lesson. Even in schools where these projects are going extremely well, the time to set aside for that kind of extended productive task is still relatively precious. What is happening, though, that's very interesting as well, is the number of children who particularly enjoy the feedback and play elements of the software that they have available to them on their devices. So they've got things like Big Bus, and the way they respond to these sorts of applications is they see them very much as games. Now, with things like Big Bus, that's perhaps not surprising, but they also feel that way about things like Sums Online, which is perhaps rather more surprising. The other interesting thing that began to creep into the data here as well is the amount of time that the youngsters were choosing to spend on these activities at home, out of school, certainly. Sometimes in the car on the way to swimming. You know, all kinds of little moments when they were choosing to do this. The fact that they regard Sums Online, which is, you know, as I'm sure you'll all be familiar with it, but, you know, unlike Big Bus, it's not designed to look like a game. And it's arguable whether or not even the Big Bus activities are, strictly speaking, games. But here, these are not games, they're puzzles, if you like, but they're not games, they're not designed to be games. But the children call them games, and they talk about playing when they're using these activities. So why is that? Why are they engaging with these tasks in the way that they're not engaging with similar problems in other contexts? And there is no doubt that the interactivity and the feedback are critical here. The fact that the kids know immediately whether or not they've got them right, the fact that the problems are graduated, these are the kinds of comments that we're getting. The fact that it's easy first and it tells you what to do, and then when you go on to the hard bit, then you have to do it all by yourself. And once you've done it there, you have to do it on paper. When you have to do it on paper, it's a lot easier. So there is this build-up of skills, and that skill is transferring. And those two ends of the spectrum, if you like, are very much the ones that are proving very engaging for the youngsters and are proving very powerful.